The first time I heard my wife mock me was on a Tuesday evening in April, her voice crackling through my iPhone speaker as clear as the Bali sky she claimed to be under. He thinks I'm meditating in Bali while I'm being worshipped in bed by a real man. He's not even worth the incense I light. I stood frozen in our kitchen, the blue light of the refrigerator casting shadows across the polished marble countertops she'd insisted we install last year. My thumb hovered over the screen, unable to skip past the voice note Camille had accidentally sent to my number instead of whoever she'd intended to share her contemptuous laughter with. I played it again, and again, 4 times total. Each time, something different registered. First, the words themselves, then the unmistakable giggle that followed, a sound I once found endearing but now recognized as cruel. The third time, I noticed ambient sounds in the background. Glasses clinking, soft music, a man's low murmur. The fourth time, I caught his accent, distinctly European, whispering something unintelligible before they both dissolved into laughter. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. Instead, I took a screenshot of the voice message, saved it to a secure folder, and poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey. Then I sat at our dining room table, the reclaimed teak monstrosity Camille had picked up from an ethical furniture collective for an obscene amount of money, and I began to think. We'd met 7 years earlier at a friend's housewarming party. I was 32, freshly promoted to senior financial analyst, and Camille was 29, a yoga instructor with an infectious laugh and eyes that crinkled genuinely when she smiled. She wore no makeup that night, her chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun, dressed in jeans and a simple white t-shirt. Nothing about her screamed spiritual influencer or enlightenment seeker. She was just Camille, warm, present, genuine. "You're staring," she'd said, catching me watching her explain proper breathing techniques to our mutual friend. "Sorry," I'd replied. "I'm just trying to figure out if that actually works, or if it's all nonsense." Instead of being offended, she'd laughed and spent the next hour convincing me of yoga's legitimacy, even getting me to try a few poses in the middle of the crowded living room. By the end of the night, I had her number and a promise to attend her Sunday morning class. I showed up, despite my hangover. She took me for coffee afterward. 3 years later, we were married on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, our vows simple and honest. I promised to support her dreams. She promised to always be authentic with me. The irony isn't lost on me now. The transition happened gradually. Camille's local yoga studio success evolved into Instagram popularity. Her account grew from a few hundred followers to thousands, then tens of thousands. Brands began reaching out. She started hosting weekend retreats. Her wardrobe shifted from simple athleisure to expensive, ethically sourced linen ensembles in earth tones. Our home filled with crystals, singing bowls, and framed mantras. I supported all of it. When she wanted to convert our spare bedroom into a meditation space complete with imported Himalayan salt lamps and $400 meditation cushions, I wrote the check. When she decided she needed to undertake a yoga teacher training course in Costa Rica for 6 weeks, I drove her to the airport and sent her daily messages of encouragement. "You're so understanding," our friends would say. Most husbands would hate all the traveling. I never minded the distance. I trusted her completely. What a frigging idiot I was. The first overseas spiritual journey happened about 18 months before the voice note. Camille announced over dinner that she needed to realign her soul in Bali. "It's calling to me, Aiden," she said, her eyes wide with conviction. "My spiritual guide says I need to immerse myself in sacred spaces to take my practice to the next level." I nodded supportively, asked intelligent questions about her itinerary, and helped her book flights. She was gone for 2 weeks, returning with dozens of photos for her Instagram, a suspicious tan line from what looked like a bikini rather than meditation robes, and stories that somehow lacked specific details. But still, I trusted her. 3 months later, it was a feminine energy retreat in Morocco. then a sacred silence pilgrimage in Japan, a karmic cleansing journey through Turkey. The trips grew more frequent, longer in duration. 4 times a year became 6, then 8. 2-week journeys stretched into month-long absences. And with each return, Camille seemed less like the woman I'd married and more like a caricature of spiritual enlightenment. "Your energy is too heavy for my healing space," she told me when I expressed concerns about our dwindling savings account. She'd begun dismissing my opinions with phrases like, "That's just your masculine ego talking," or "You're vibrating at a lower frequency right now." Still, I convinced myself this was simply her growth, her path. I remembered my vow to support her dreams, until that voice note, until "He thinks I'm meditating in Bali," until "I'm being worshipped in bed by a real man," until "He's not even worth the incense I light." I didn't confront her immediately. Something deep inside me, perhaps the financial analyst who dealt in concrete evidence and verifiable facts, wanted more than a misdirected voice message. I needed to understand the full scope of her betrayal. When Camille returned from Bali, I already suspected she might have been elsewhere. I greeted her at the airport with a smile and flowers. She seemed momentarily surprised by my affection, then quickly recovered, launching into elaborate stories about temple experiences and spiritual breakthroughs. I nodded, asked questions, and played the role of supportive husband perfectly. Meanwhile, a new plan was forming in my mind. The next morning, while Camille was at her studio recording content for her subscribers, I began my research. It didn't take long to find Ramirez Global Security, a firm specializing in international surveillance for high-net-worth individuals concerned about traveling family members. Their website didn't explicitly say, "We catch cheating spouses," but the testimonials made it clear that was a significant part of their business. The initial consultation cost $500, which I paid from my personal account. "What exactly are you hoping to confirm, Mr. Hayes?" asked Miguel Ramirez, a former Interpol detective with kind eyes that had clearly seen it all. "My wife travels internationally for spiritual journeys about 8 times per year," I explained. "I have reason to believe she's meeting someone during these trips, specifically an ex-boyfriend with a European accent. I need definitive proof of what's happening on these trips." "This will be expensive," he warned. "International surveillance, especially if she's moving between countries, requires resources." "I understand," I replied, thinking of our joint investment account, the one Camille rarely checked. "Cost isn't an issue. I need this done right." We agreed on terms. Ramirez would activate surveillance on Camille's next trip, scheduled for Greece in 6 weeks. I provided her itinerary, social media accounts, and every detail I could think of about her habits while traveling. Then came the hardest part: waiting. The day Camille left for Greece, I kissed her goodbye at our front door, wishing her powerful spiritual revelations with what I hoped was convincing sincerity. "You've been so supportive lately," she said, studying my face. "I feel like you're finally understanding my journey." "I'm trying," I replied, which wasn't entirely a lie. I was indeed trying to understand exactly how deep her deception went. Once her rideshare pulled away, I texted Ramirez, "She's en route, operation active." His response was immediate, "Acknowledged. First report in 48 hours. For the next 3 weeks, I lived a double life. During the day, I worked, attended social obligations, and exchanged occasional texts with Camille, who sent daily photos of Greek temples, meditation spots, and healing meals. At night, I reviewed Ramirez's reports. The truth emerged quickly. Camille had indeed flown to Athens, but only briefly. Within hours of landing, she'd taken a private car to a remote luxury villa on Santorini. She wasn't alone. Surveillance photos clearly showed a tall, dark-haired man meeting her at the villa entrance, lifting her into an embrace that no spiritual guide would give a student. His name, Ramirez informed me, was Luca Moretti. Italian nationality, 38 years old, self-described conceptual artist with a studio in Berlin and a history of dating wealthy women. A quick social media search confirmed what I already suspected. This was Camille's one who got away, the boyfriend from her early 20s who had ghosted her after a 2-year relationship. Apparently, he'd unghosted himself. The reports grew more detailed and more painful as surveillance continued. Photos of them dining at exclusive restaurants, videos of them walking hand in hand on private beaches. Audio recordings from hotel lobbies and restaurant tables captured their conversations. He still has no idea, Camille's voice, clearly recognizable. He thinks I'm having some profound spiritual awakening. Meanwhile, the only thing being awakened is my body. Luca's laughter. Your husband sounds like such a bore. All that financial stability, no passion. Aiden's a good man, but so predictable. I need fire, spontaneity. He just doesn't understand the divine masculine energy that you embody. Each new piece of evidence was a knife between my ribs, but I forced myself to review everything. I needed the complete picture. The third weekly report included something unexpected, evidence of a pattern. Ramirez had backtracked through Camille's previous spiritual journeys and found that nearly all coincided with Luca's known whereabouts. The Bali trip? Luca had an exhibition opening in Singapore the same week. Her Morocco retreat? Luca was photographed at a gallery in Marrakesh. Japan? Turkey? Portugal? Luca's Instagram showed him in each country, though his posts never overlapped with Camille's carefully crafted spiritual content. They'd been carrying on this affair for at least 18 months, possibly longer. When Camille returned from Greece, I played my part perfectly. I listened to her stories about ancient wisdom and energy vortexes. I nodded appreciatively when she showed me overpriced souvenirs blessed by local healers. I asked thoughtful questions about her breakthroughs, and all the while, I continued gathering evidence. Over the next 3 months, I invested nearly $50,000 in surveillance as Camille took 2 more trips, one to Mexico and another to Portugal. Each journey followed the same pattern. She would post carefully edited photos of spiritual sites while actually spending her time in luxury accommodations with Luca. By summer's end, my dossier was comprehensive. Hotel receipts showing double occupancy under fake names, dozens of photos and videos, hours of audio recordings, credit card statements showing purchases that never appeared in her spiritual posts, lingerie, wine, couples spa treatments. The most damning evidence came during her Portugal trip. A surveillance microphone placed in their hotel suite captured a conversation that finally shattered any last shred of doubt or hope I might have harbored. "Do you ever feel guilty?" Luca asked her one evening, their voices slightly slurred from wine. "About Aiden?" Camille laughed. "God, no. He's completely oblivious. So wrapped up in his little financial world of spreadsheets and projections. I could probably tell him I'm sleeping with you, and he'd just ask if it's helping my chakra alignment. But he pays for all this, no? Your trips, your studio." "That's his purpose in my life," she replied with chilling certainty. "He's financially stable. You're my passion, my fire. Different men for different needs." "And he never suspects?" "Never." I throw around enough spiritual jargon and his eyes glaze over. "Your energy is too heavy for my healing space. This is part of my divine feminine journey." He just nods and writes checks. They both laughed. "What if he found out?" Luca pressed. "He won't," Camille said confidently. "And even if he did, what would he do? Have a rational conversation? Ask to see a financial breakdown of my retreats? Aiden isn't capable of drama or passion. It's why I need you." Something in me broke that night as I listened to the recording. Not from sadness, but from clarity. The woman I had married, the genuine, warm yoga instructor with the crinkly-eyed smile, was gone. Perhaps she had never really existed. In her place was this calculating impostor who used spiritual language to mask selfishness, who mocked my trust and support behind my back, who shared her body and our resources with a man who clearly had as little respect for commitment as she did. It was time to act. Planning revenge requires patience. While emotion might demand immediate confrontation, strategy requires calm calculation. I spent September organizing my evidence and consulting professionals, not just Ramirez, but also the best divorce attorney in the city and a digital security expert. Each played a crucial role in what I now think of as Operation Namaste Liar. First, I secured my finances. I legally separated our accounts where possible, documented every penny Camille had spent on her spiritual journeys, which would later be categorized as marital waste in the divorce proceedings, and ensured my personal assets were protected. Next, I prepared our home. I had the locks changed, the security system recoded, and quietly moved my essential belongings and irreplaceable items to a storage unit. I leased a sleek downtown apartment under an LLC, furnished it minimally but comfortably, and set up utilities in the company's name. Then I compiled The Package, a meticulously organized digital folder containing irrefutable evidence of Camille's betrayal. This wasn't just for legal purposes, it had a far more important role to play. Finally, I waited for the perfect moment. It came when Camille announced her next journey, a 3-week tantric energy recalibration in Portugal. This would be her last trip on my dime, though she didn't know it yet. "You seem distracted," she said the night before her departure, as she packed her expensive luggage with items I knew would never see the inside of an ashram. "Is your energy blocked again?" "Just work stress," I replied smoothly. "Don't worry about me. Focus on your journey." She kissed my cheek absently. "I'll bring you back something to help ground your root chakra." "That would be nice," I said, knowing I would never see whatever trinket she pretended to shop for between sex sessions with Luca. Once she was gone, I set the final phase in motion. I contacted everyone in my digital dossier: the surveillance team, the divorce attorney, the digital security expert, and a newly hired public relations consultant specializing in social media crises. Each had specific instructions for the day of Camille's return. 3 weeks passed quickly as I finalized every detail. The divorce papers were drawn up, reviewed, and waiting. My new apartment was ready. The digital package was prepared for distribution. Everything was in place. Then, it was time. On the morning Camille was scheduled to land, I checked the flight tracking app. Her plane had landed on time. Now, the countdown began. I knew her routine by heart. She would turn on her phone as soon as she deplaned, connect to airport Wi-Fi, and immediately check her social accounts. Then she would post a carefully filtered photo with some profound-sounding caption about her transformative experience, tagging the retreat center she claimed to have attended. At exactly 10:17 a.m., her Instagram updated with a new story, a selfie showing her with tousled hair and a serene expression, captioned, "Enlightenment can't be taught, it must be earned." I smiled and sent a single text message to Ramirez: "Execute." At 10:20 a.m., as Camille waited for her luggage, an anonymous number posted a Google Drive link in her private travel group chat, a digital space shared by her 68 closest contacts, including fellow influencers, brand representatives, retreat organizers, family members, and devoted followers. The link was titled simply, "Namaste, Liar." Inside was everything: every photo, every video, every audio recording. Hotel receipts showing room service for 2, credit card statements showing couples' spa treatments, screenshots of Luca's Instagram locations matching Camille's spiritual destinations, a timeline establishing their 18-month affair alongside her public posts about celibacy and spiritual purification. And of course, that first voice note. "He thinks I'm meditating in Bali while I'm being worshipped in bed by a real man. He's not even worth the incense I light." The folder's introduction was brief. Camille's Spiritual Journey, brought to you by deception, betrayal, and five-star adultery. Enlighten yourselves. From my downtown apartment, I watched through a specialized tracking program as the link was opened again and again. 63 views within the first 10 minutes. The chat itself exploded with messages. OMG, is this real? I knew something was off with those retreats. Who the hell is this guy? Camille, what the actual heck? I paid $3,500 for your authenticity workshop, you fraud. Brand representatives who had sponsored her content began sending formal termination notices directly to the chat. Retreat organizers publicly distanced themselves. A popular yoga influencer shared screenshots to her stories with the caption, "This is why the spiritual community gets a bad name. Disgusting." Camille's mother, a woman of few words but strong convictions, sent a single text visible to everyone. "You're a disgrace." By the time Camille's rideshare pulled up to our house, our former house, the damage was irreversible. Her phone had likely been buzzing non-stop with notifications. Her carefully crafted persona was collapsing in real time. Brands were dropping her. Followers were unfollowing by the thousands. Even Luca, according to Ramirez's surveillance, had blocked her number after seeing his face plastered across drama accounts and yoga community call-out pages. She would find her suitcase waiting on the porch, the locks changed, and a sleek white envelope taped to the front door. Inside, divorce papers, her wedding ring, and a sticky note with the only direct message I would ever send her. "Your energy has been released, permanently. Aiden." I didn't watch from across the street. I didn't hide in a parked car to witness her reaction. I didn't need to. The devastation I had orchestrated was thorough, complete, and irreversible. While Camille stood on our former doorstep, her world burning around her, I was meeting with my attorney, signing the final paperwork to ensure the divorce would proceed exactly as planned. The prenuptial agreement she had dismissed as negative energy years ago now ensured she would receive nothing beyond what she had contributed, which, after accounting for her spiritual expenditures, amounted to virtually nothing. In the weeks that followed, I maintained perfect silence. Reporters and drama channels reached out for comments. I declined all requests. Former mutual friends texted sympathetic messages. I thanked them politely but didn't engage further. Camille herself sent dozens of increasingly desperate messages, alternating between rage, bargaining, and her standard spiritual jargon. I blocked her number. My silence spoke volumes. While she scrambled frantically to salvage her reputation, posting tearful apology videos and claiming she had been on a misguided path and needed forgiveness to heal, I simply lived my life. I focused on my work, joined a rock climbing gym, reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. I adopted a rescue dog, a calm, loyal retriever mix who enjoyed long walks and simple pleasures. I rediscovered myself piece by piece. 6 months after Operation Namaste Liar, I met Eliza at a friend's dinner party. A kindergarten teacher with a genuine laugh and thoughtful perspective, she knew nothing of social media algorithms or manifestation techniques. On our third date, she admitted she'd Googled me and found the scandal. "You must have been devastated," she said softly. "I was," I acknowledged, "but not in the way most people assume. I wasn't devastated by losing her. I was devastated by realizing the person I thought I knew never existed." "And the revenge?" she asked carefully. "Do you regret it?" I considered this seriously. "No," I finally answered. "I don't regret exposing the truth. Camille built her life and career on deception, not just to me, but to everyone who followed her, paid for her workshops, believed in her authenticity. The truth was always going to come out eventually." Eliza nodded, accepting this answer without judgment. A year after the divorce was finalized, I heard through mutual connections that Camille had moved to a small town in Oregon, teaching basic yoga classes at a local gym. Her Instagram following had dwindled to a few thousand diehards. Luca had apparently moved on to another wealthy patron, his art career continuing uninterrupted. Neither seemed particularly damaged by the experience, narcissists rarely are, but their actions had consequences nonetheless. Me? I've found peace in authenticity. Eliza and I moved in together recently, into a modest house with a garden she tends carefully. There are no crystals, no mantras on the walls, no spiritual paraphernalia, just books, comfortable furniture, and the quiet hum of a genuine partnership. Sometimes, when I reflect on what happened, I realize my revenge wasn't really about hurting Camille. It was about reclaiming my dignity, exposing deception, and freeing myself from a relationship built on lies. The fact that her carefully constructed facade crumbled in the process wasn't the goal. It was simply the inevitable outcome of truth colliding with falsehood. I no longer harbor anger toward Camille. I don't wish her further harm. But I don't regret setting fire to the illusion she created, even if she burned alongside it. Some might call it karma. I call it consequences. Namaste indeed. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.